This
Start. Yes.
conference will now be
So,
recorded.
so, so once to create an implementation project, you need to go to the setup and maintenance in first place. So to do that, from the user, click on the setup and maintenance. So after that, it takes you to the setup and maintenance work area. Here, click on the task panel. So here, the expanded task panel should have the one of the task it has manage implementation projects. Okay, click on that. So this is the area where we created the implementation project. Right now, we need to search for our implementation project. Okay, Apple Financials implementations is the project we created, right? And this while creating this implementation project, we had selected financials procurement and finance fusion accounting hub are the offerings that we had selected as a scope for this implementation project. Okay, so and we discussed the various attributes of the implementation project header information, and will proceeding further to discuss on the the task related options. What are the options that uh, a person or an administrator of the implementation project or a manager or whoever who wants to track, so what all actions that they can do, that we can see it right now. Okay, so the implementation project based on the selection of your offering, it gives you the, it lists out or loads all the tasks of the offering that we selected for that implementation project. You can see the header as task list and task, which means depends upon the selection of your offering, the respective task will get loaded onto the implementation project. Okay, so now what are the toolbar, what are the options that implementation project has at task level, and what are the actions that we can do. Okay, so the actions, so from the actions we can I think this we discussed, we had you can further add the uh, add the offerings into the scope of this implementation. That you can do by going into the plus symbol or from the action symbol, both serves the same objective. Okay, select and add. If you click on select and add, it will take you to the form where all the enabled offerings will be displayed. Enabled, which means, so before creating an implementation project, you will be choosing the enabling the functional areas, right? Offerings. That is where it takes you to the. So, which means if you could not find any offering in this list, that means that offering is not enabled in first place. Okay, so if you could not find something in this list, then you go back to the offering enablement form and enable the offering, and you should find that offering here. And subsequently you can even remove the offering, selected offering. And the next task is to assign the tasks. Okay, so before coming into the assign task, let us discuss on this the options that exist on the task, then we'll go into the task and related task assignment details. Okay, so to view out the tasks for each of the enabled offering, so you can expand on the button, the bullet kind of button, where you can click on to expand these details. Okay, once it is expanded, to come out of this form, also to close this also, you need to click on the same one. It gives you, it serves the both functions, expand and collapse. Okay, okay, so the first option that you see on the task list is toolbar is the task name, the next one is the help. Okay, what this help will do, help, once you click on the help, it takes you to the description details, theoretical details that Oracle provides you for the related tasks. Okay, so if you can check any one of this, so define common applications, so maybe instead of that we'll see the any relevant app task. So define, let us go and see for the define ledgers. Okay, just click on the help button. So it gives you the pop-up with the various ledger related details where Oracle is going to give you as an help manual. Okay, what is the ledgers and sub ledgers, primary ledgers, secondary ledgers. So there are various options: ledgers, legal entities, balancing segment values, business units, model year, financial reporting structure. So basically, this entire whatever the hyperlinks you see over there will discuss the details around the concepts. Ledgers, different types of ledger, what are the required components to define your ledger, what is the enterprise um, structure that exists in the Oracle. So it takes you to the details where the concept around ledgers. Okay, so if you click on this, I clicked on this ledgers and sub ledgers, so it opened up this one. So here you can get the details of these ledgers and sub ledgers. It's a kind of an material for you to learn about the specific tasks. Okay, this is one of the good area where you can update your theoretical skills of the concepts which you are going to do in Oracle. Okay, this is where help does. Okay, so how this gets enabled, that we discussed, right? So depends upon the from the user one. So if you click on these hide icons, this should this should gets disappeared. Okay, so once you click on show help icons from the user details, then this help button will get enabled. Okay, once you click on hide, if you refresh this application, definitely this help button will go off. Okay, that is where the toolbar option talks about. Okay, so the next one is the go to task. So go to task is the button where, or the option where it takes you to the relevant configuration task. Okay, so if you users and role synchronization, so this is one of the tasks. And if you see, there is another task, manage business units. Okay, so if I click on the go to task, what it will do is it takes you to the relevant relevant form where business units are going to be configured, business units are going to be set up. Okay, initially it has taken you to the business unit creation form where it by default it shows all the business unit that are already exist, that are created by some other users. Okay, so to do your configuration, simply you have to click on the plus button. So this is where you create the business unit. In other words, the go to task button will takes you to the configuration form of the respective task. Okay. Next to go to task, there is another option called selected scope. What does it mean, selected scope? So selected scope is, so whenever there is an configuration task that you are going to do, has to be done on various functionalities, then you need to, wherever it is applicable, I mean the one of the configuration that has to be done on multiple components, Oracle itself asks you to select the scope. Okay, so the example what we discussed for this topic is ledger options, that is what we have seen, right? So when you are doing the configuration, if that configuration has to be done on one of the pre-existed configuration. Then you need to select that configuration, pre-existed configuration as in scope, and once you select the scope, it takes you to the respective configuration piece. Okay, so so this is how the scope, but scope option will works. Okay, we'll see that while we are while we are updating the configurations. We'll see what is the scope, how you can do the scope, how you can delist, and everything we'll see. Okay, the status button is the status of the task. So whether the status is what is the status of this task. Okay, this status is manually controlled, it is not at all updated by the system automatically. Once you are assume that once you are completed with the ledger creation or the business unit creation, system will not update the status automatically saying that this configuration is updated. So it has to be manually controlled. Okay, even though whether you complete or not, whether you complete the status or not, you can go and update the status as completed as well. It is just a manually controlled option where it is source of information for just to track your configuration. It doesn't have anything, it doesn't have any impact on the configurations of actual business process that you are going to do for any implementation. It is just the, it is whatever the screen you see on the right now, the options are just for reporting on your configuration tasks. Okay, so the predecessor task is the prerequisite setups for a given task. Let us say business unit. To define a business unit, what are the prerequisite setup, that also it lists. So if something is there, it gives you the number. Once you click on the number, it shows up the related details. Okay, the assign to is the resource to whom the task is assigned. Okay, let us say the business unit a task is you are going to assign to one of the resource, right? So the task can be assigned to various users, right? Who are the users? The consultants who are going to configure the application setup, right? Not the business users. Okay, so assigned to will display the user whom the task is assigned. Okay, due date is the due date of this task, by that the task has to be completed from the configuration side. Assignment permission is the option where it is permitted to the user or not. How does this status gets updated is if the user has the required privileges to do that configuration, then it gives you an permitted symbol. If not, then not permitted. We'll see that. Authorized roles, it gives you the details of the roles from which all roles this privilege is part of. So if the user who all the users can do this task, and what is the required role to do that, that is where it gives you the details. Okay, notes button, subsequently notes button, it gives you the, it shows up the notes that while assigning any task, the assignee can give some direction to the user, and he can add some notes. Those notes will get display here. Okay, that we will see. We will enter the notes, we will assign the task to the user, and we'll see the due dates, we'll see everything. Okay, and there is an another option, last option is the view reports. So click on that view reports. It is a kind of reports on the task that functional area consists of. Okay, so as soon as you click on this view reports button, it pop-ups with some details which you can go through. What it is, setup task and task list. So there are various options. HTML, for the output will be in HTML, PDF or Excel, how you want. So go, I'm selecting PDF for right now. So what it will do is it it exports the tasks under ledgers, under the functional area ledgers, and it shows up some of the details. What are those? We'll see. So let me go to the document. Okay, so I'm just opening up this document. So what it is showing is it lists out all the tasks under the functional area defined ledgers. So what are these tasks? Can you see, if you expand this, you would see, definitely you would see multiple tasks, configuration tasks which you are going to do, right? So all those task details will be presented in the form of report. And what does that report details contains is, what is the task, this task belongs to which family, when I say it is which offering, and offering as well as the product which means the your general ledger, accounts payables or accounts receivables. There we have classified them as sub ledgers, right? The same product family it lists out here. And the whether the setup is required or not. Required means whether it is mandatorily or optional configuration, right? And the status, what is the status of this task, and the owners means who is the whom to whom the task is assigned. And notes is displayed when there are any notes entered while assigning the task. So those are the details it gives you. So in short, what you can in short what this report list out is, it lists all the tasks of the configuration task. It lists out the various product related, the task related information for which the task belongs to which module, the task belongs to under which offering, and who is to whom the task is assigned, right? What is the status? So those are the details it it pulls into this report. From where it pulls? Again, from the same screen. Okay, let us say, so this task is assigned to some other user, so that details will be updated here. Okay, so there are other options related enterprise application, related business objects. There are certain other details related to the task will be pulled into this report, but hardly you can go and hardly you will be required to, if you want to check the what are the tasks and to whom it is assigned on the application screen itself, you can go and see. But if you want to see that in the form of one document, you can go into the view report, set up task and set up task list and task. There you can select your required the output in the required format, whatever you want, HTML, PDF, Excel. So it gives you the details. Okay, so that is how this view reports area works. Now moving further into the task assignment. Okay, so how do you assign a task to a user, right? So user means the consultant, the person who actually performs the configurations, right? So to do that, select the task, or you can even select the multiple task as well. Okay, and go click on assign tasks. Okay, so it opens up the form where you can assign the user. So assigned users is the area where you can go and see the if any of the any user is already assigned. If not, then you can go and assign the user. To do that, just click on the plus symbol, or else you can even do it from the actions button as well. So search for the user to whom you want to assign. Okay, So this is the user to whom I want to apply. I want to assign. Okay. So ideally, one task can be done by one user, but there may be situations where you want to assign the same task to multiple users. Even application also allows that as well. So simply you can select the any user here and you can search. So once it is done, then you can select the user. Okay, right now I have assigned these tasks to the user called Pepsi. Okay, and while the system fetching this data, so there are other options on the same form. Assign the same due date to the all the users. This means when you are assigning the multiple user this one or more tasks to the multiple users, you don't need to assign the due date to multiple users manually, right? Assume that this task is assigned to 4 users. In the due date, ideally the due date column, it gets enabled once uh, it gets enabled once the user is added. But if there are more than one user, then one due date can be assigned to multiple users. How can you do that? Simply enable that one and give a due date here. Whatever you give here, it gets default to the whatever the rest of the users you select on this option. Okay. Okay.
Tirupati.
Yes, please.
Hi, Tirupati.
Yes, please.
Uh, I mean, who's the person create that? Create the project as a he's a project manager or any of the consultant will create the project.
Anyone can do who has the implementation project. And there is a certain privilege also. See, each of these tasks in Oracle, if you remember, while discussing on the role, we had discussed role is the combination of privileges, and the privileges will gives you the access to the various forms. That is what discussed, right? So to do to create an implementation project also, backend, it is driven by one of the privilege. Okay, whoever the user has that privilege, that user can be that user can create an implementation project, whether the manager, project lead, or project consultant, whoever have the privileges, whoever is assigned with the related required role, and the privilege, that role has that privilege, required privilege, then the user is free to create an implementation project.
And okay, and one more question is, uh,
Yes,
if
please.
uh, if you are a project manager or some consultant who created the project, and you are assigned to me some tasks, okay?
Correct.
Here are you able, even you are you able to uh, assign yourself for that task
So you want to can the user assign the task to himself?
himself, right?
Yes, yes, we can, because we have logged in from the user called Apple, right? So for the same user, I have assigned. I'll take you to that topic as well. So see, application here, the task can be assigned to any of the user who is available in the users list. First place. Okay, it is not at all worried uh, whether the user has the privileges or not. Okay, it doesn't have that much of what do you mean, the conditions or validations. Okay, whoever the active user that available in the users directory, those all the users you can assign a task. Simple form.
So finally, uh, only the user when only the assign the task to user, that user only do the that particular task only.
No, no, that is where I'm right now. I am going to come.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Yeah. The next 2 to 3 minutes will answer your question. Okay. So, let me first assign this to the one of the you. So I'm just trying to assign to the user who is actually created this implementation project. So right. So so I'm trying to do that, but it is not sure because of the application slowness. It is not taking. But let me see um, if it is assigned. Just give me 1 minute because I have already done that. So, okay. Anyway, to answer your question, as I already answered, the task can be assigned to the any user who exists in the users repository. So it is not worried about the whether the user is the manager or the implementation consultant. Okay, that is our first point. And second is to the user. Let us say suppose the task can be yes, I I did assign certain configurations, so I wanted to walk you through that. Okay, purchasing configurations. Okay, so if you see, there are certain task which I have already assigned. So if you see this task, the task which is manage purchasing value sets. Okay, if you go and see there, it is already assigned to the user called Apple and Pepsi. Okay, Apple is the user from whom we are logging in, and from the user whom we create from the user whose login we have created an implementation project, right? So this answers your question, like, so whether the task can be assigned to the self. Okay, yes, it can be. And so once the user is assigned, you can see the symbol. There is one symbol called in checkbox, green and red. Okay, what does this mean is whether this user has the required privileges or not. So the Apple user is assigned with the role called application implementation consultant, which has the privilege to do this configuration. But whereas the Pepsi user, Pepsi is not assigned with the required role. That is where the application is giving a message saying that this user is not permitted. Once you go and assign the role to this user, this will be marked into green saying that this user is permitted. That is where it shows up the details. Okay, so in the same way, you can while assigning the user, you can give the due date as well. Okay, so let me go and give the some backward date just for our reporting purpose to view the reporting. Okay. Okay, so this is where the user task is assigned. Okay, once the task is assigned to one of the user, okay, the user assume that the user has the user when the assigned to the user, the consultant has already configured his task. Already he has already completed his task. How the user can go and do the task, that we discussed, right? The go to task of that respective task has to be clicked upon. Once it is done, then it takes you to the respective configuration details. Once the user is done, then it is the user's responsibility who has to update this configuration status as started, as completed, right? Initially it will be not started. Maybe when you while you are started working on, maybe you can make it as an in progress. And depends upon the execution frozen, completed with errors, whatever. While doing, if you come up with any errors, maybe you can choose this option. Assume that you are already completed this task. So it is the user's uh, it is the user responsibility to uh, make the task is completed in the status area, so that the actual reporting can be happen on the actual status of these configurations. Okay, so once you had marked with the status to completed, then you can see this status got updated to the green mark in right symbol. Okay, tick symbol. Okay, this is how you update the status.
Yeah,
Okay, and yes, any
Tirupati.
questions?
Yeah, Tirupati. Without assigning the task, the user will, I mean, user able to do this task or not?
Yes, yes. So, yes. So, once the assume that this task is assigned to this user Pepsi has logged in from his application, and this task is he has completed and he has updated this task. But the user from the Apple, once the task is assigned to Pepsi, but it doesn't mean that the only the user Pepsi can do these configurations. Even from my login also I can do. Okay, so see, there is one of the tasks called manage change order templates, which is assigned to the user Pepsi. But can I go and do it? Yes, application allows you. It doesn't restrict to that level. Okay, it is just a reporting, and it is not that much uh, is going to play a key role in your as an consultant role. Okay, it is just to report. It is just to report the task on the configuration that you are going to do. Okay, so this is one of the area where the user is task is assigned to the user. The only that user or the any other user. It doesn't mean that only that user can perform the task. Any user can perform the task, not even the user to whom the task is assigned. Let us say this, can this task be assigned to the Pepsi, can this done by a user. Any user who has the application implementation consultant role can go and do. Okay, that is one thing. And the task which is not assigned to any user, that is also possible, right? So this task is not at all assigned to any user, you can go and do that, you can go and complete this task. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
And
got it. Pradeep. Thank you.
okay, so let us uh, update this as well to completed, because we want to see some dashboard. Whatever we discussed, right? It is ultimate goal is to generate a report, right? We should have some data. That is why I'm just updating couple of things as completed. Okay, let me. Okay, so once the task is assigned to one user, and how do you there may be situations, right, where the one task is assigned to one user, that task can be reassigned. You may come up with a requirement where the task has to be assigned to the different user. You can do from here, whereas you can remove this user and assign to a different user. This is one way, and the other way I'll show you when we move further forward. Okay. Let me enter a due date, some backward due date, 23 date. Let me take this. Okay, so this is how you assign a task to the user who is going to perform the configuration task. So once you do this one, just give me 1 minute, guys. Yes, sorry guys. Okay, so we were discussing on the assigning an task and the respective the subsequent actions that the user is going to do, and what are the other options that you can do on the task assignment, right? So once this task is done, the major objective is to our objective is to view the dashboard, right? What is the status? I mean, where are this status tasks exist, what status, and who is the user doing what. This is the that was the major main objective of this having this task in place, right? The implementation project. So where you can go and do that, where you can go and view that. Okay, so once you are how you can go into that area is the from the overview page of implementation project. So okay, how can you do that? So let me come from the beginning, so just to give a clear picture to you. Okay, manage implementation projects. Okay, and I think you can click on overview directly. See, so it is once you click on the overview, it has taken to the implementation projects overview area by showing the Apple Financials implementation project. How come this is show? How come this is defaulted? Because there is a certain default options. If you have seen status all open assigned to the Apple user, so which means that it shows up all the implementation project that are assigned to the user from whom user logins you have logged in. We have logged in from Apple. That is where the default assigned to is Apple, and the implementation project created and assigned to that user is the only one Apple Financials. That is why it is showing up. Okay, okay. So the entire tasks, whatever we have seen, right? So if you have seen the implementation project name, this is the one Apple Financials implementation, and it has listed all the tasks. So what are the unassigned tasks, what is the number, and what are the assigned tasks, and what are the tasks which are assigned. We have assigned while in the session, right? Those are the tasks which got listed over here. And the next is the status of the implementation project, and the assigned to user is the Apple. Because why? Because this implementation project is assigned to the user, right? Not the task. It is the implementation project details that are given at the header level. Okay, and to just if you have scrolled down, you would see the implementation project details in represented in different patterns, right? The pie chart as well as the what is this? I don't know. Okay, so what are the tasks which are represented with different color code combinations as well? If you have seen the color code combination representation are also given. So the majority of the tasks are not started, and some of them are completed with yellow color, and in progress with light green color. Okay, those are subsequently depends upon the status updated on the implementation project. Those will get updated reflected here. Okay, this is assignments by status. The same details, whatever the details you have updated on the implementation project task, the same details is updated in the by task. Okay, when you there are other options as well. Assignment by task list. So what it will do is it takes you to the reporting area where it shows up the task and its status details for the offering wise. Okay, what are financials offering, how many tasks, out of which what are the statuses with represented with color codes. Okay, similarly procurement and fusion accounting hub. Okay, and resource status. So uh, the same task list represented by the resource. What are the tasks assigned to this user, and what are the statuses. Okay, and if you go into the assignment details where it actually lists out the tasks which are assigned to who all users. This is the area where you can view the task, the assignee, the due date, the whatnot, the other details on the task panel. Okay. Similarly, you have some options to filter up the data. Maybe task assigned to the user wise. You can further filter. Okay, just select the user and click on the search button. So it has given you the details. Right now the only define geographies is the only task which is assigned to the user apple. So if you select the unassigned, and it pops up the all the it should pop up all the unassigned tasks. I'm not sure why. Okay, this is because of this due date, right? So this is how you can view the configurations data, configuration task status. Okay. we even I thought, I mean, I had explained the the assignment reassignment as well. We have spoken, right? So where how you can do that from the implementation project, you can remove the existing user and you can assign to the new user, right? So here I think here it should somewhere it should just give me 1 minute. This is assigned to the user. Okay, once you have filter on the user, select the task and reassign task got enabled. So it is just go to the reassign task and you should be able to assign to the new user. So such process is same. So search for the user, give the due date and give some notes, save and close it. That task should get reassigned to the desired user. Okay, this is in detail, I mean, the concepts around the implementation project. Okay, so before moving into the next topic, anyone has any questions on that implementation project? No questions? Okay, so we'll move further into the next topic called enterprise structure. We'll discuss on high level and we'll discuss in detail in the subsequent classes. Okay, enterprise structure. What is an enterprise structure? Okay, enterprise structure is the reporting structure or the business structure that is required to be configured in the Oracle application. Okay, so any of the business structure, any of the financials, I mean the ERPs you are going to implement for any of the customer. Each of this application, each of this ERP vendor reports or tracks the data in their different manner, right? So each ERP may track or may have an organization structure that handles in different way. But how does an Oracle handle the enterprise structure in its ERP is its ERP is it has a layered structure. So layered structure, and to implement the Oracle solution, you should first define this enterprise structure in first place. Okay, so otherwise we cannot implement. So the components are part of this enterprise structure. Okay, what is the structure it talks about? Okay, what is the what is the enterprise structure that Oracle has laid down? Okay, we'll write up first the structure and we'll discuss detail. Okay, the first one is the enterprise name, and then you have divisions, and then we have ledger or ledgers. Okay, Then we have legal entities. Under that we have business units. Under business unit you will have inventory, inventory organizations. Under sub inventories you will be having, under inventory organization you will be having sub inventories. Okay, so this is the enterprise structure that Oracle supports. Okay, whenever you go and implement, whenever you are going for an uh, implementation of Oracle Fusion for any of the customers, so you need to define the configurations, and you need to define the configurations which fits into the this enterprise structure. Okay, this is the skeleton component whatever I had listed. Okay, each of this component of the skeleton will be having the corresponding configurations that as a consultant we are going to do. Okay, so from the list, what are the mandatory configurations and what are the optional configurations? Okay, so this is the enterprise structure, enterprise name uh, is just an existing. Oracle gives an default name that you can go and update. Okay, so it is mandatorily because this enterprise name will go and it will be picked by in some of the reporting. So it is better to go and update the enterprise name to the business group, the entities group name you are going to update. And the next component of the enterprise is the divisions. So divisions is an optional component of your enterprise structure, where it is just for reporting purpose, where you want to report the where you want to report the data division wise. Then you need to define that division, and that has to be defined and one of the component in your chart of account structure. We'll discuss in detail, but this is an optional configuration from an enterprise structure perspective. But if you have, if you want to, I mean, if you have to define the division size and one of the enterprise structure, that has to be, so that has to be defined as mandatorily as an chart of account structure segment as well. Okay, this is the condition. Divisions, whether it may be required or might be required for an implementation. Okay, if it is required, then the same has to be, division has to be represented as one of the segment in the chart of account structure. Okay,
Tirupati, the enterprise, the segments also part of enterprise structure.
segments, yes, I'll explain that. Okay, so ledgers is the, it is a mandatory configuration, and this ledger represents the, this ledger is the source, this ledger is the ultimate target where the business transactions accounting is going to hit. Okay, so where do you record your business transactions? Processes, right? Business processes, business process, where it is going to be recorded. Maybe your accounts payables, account supplier invoices and payments are going to be maintained in your, recorded in your account payables and payments, right? So similarly receivables are going to be recorded in receivables module, assets are going to be recorded in assets module, right? Each of these transaction that you go and book in any of the subledgers, in the back end it generate an accounting journal that we call as a journal entry, right? Everyone aware of this, what is a journal entry, right? So that journal entry will go and hit into your primary ledger. Okay, so primary, on the primary ledger you are going to generate the reports, whatever the reports, financial reports, maybe your trial balance, P&Ls, cash flows, whatever the financials report, whatever the journal details reports, you can go and generate out of your ledgers data. Okay, so so this ledger, so how many ledgers an implementation can have? What Oracle suggests is you should have at least one ledger. You should define at least one ledger, but depends upon your requirement, you can define many, one or more than one ledgers you can define, but it depends upon your requirement. Okay, so what is the requirement? Why do you need to create multiple ledgers, right? So what Oracle says is, as an implementation, you can go and define one ledger, which can caters to the record the business transactions of your company, which operates in one geographical region, or it operates in across the globe. Okay, so why see, in general we will go with the multiple ledger implementation. Okay, why? Why do you go for an implementation for multiple ledgers? There are situations where you can go for the one implementation, but in general, so far whatever I have seen, I have implemented with the multiple ledgers. Okay, why? Because the ledger while defining a ledger is again a combination of various components. Okay, one of them is the currency. Okay, ledger is the combination of your chart of account structure, your calendar, your currency, and your accounting method. These are the four concepts which are part of your ledger. When you are defining a ledger, you should select all these four options. Okay, so one of them is the currency I have told, right? What does this currency will do is, it records the transaction, whatever the journal you are going to hit, it should represent one currency, right? Wherever you are buying something, wherever you are making something, it has to be represented in one currency. What is that currency? It depends upon the geographical area where you live, right? I mean, if you are in India, I mean, there will be a legislation compliance, right? You should do business in local currency, right? If you go to the Europe, they do business transactions in euro, right? So even though they have their country specific currency, they do business on the euro, right? So that is where the currency on the ledger plays a role. Okay, so why in that case, why do implementations will have multiple ledger? Because let us say that the company is operating in the one company is operating in US and India, and US being the headquarters and India being its subsidiary. Okay, so the the company is operating in India as an Indian legislation, as per the Indian legislation rules. The company which operates in Indian geographical area has to comply with certain rules and regulations that Indian government lays down. Right? What are those? Maybe they need to prepare the tax reports. Where maybe they need to pay the taxation details into the respective organizations, right? Even that has to be transacted in INR, right? So if your company is operating in India, so what currency do you invoice in? INR, right? So that is where generally you would be seeing multiple ledgers because of currency change, and there will be a multiple ledger because of there may be a change in reporting. How do you report, how do you record is the chart of account segments. Chart of account segments is a different, I mean, it is a vast topic, we'll discuss later. But what are the I just why I brought down the chart of account structure to right now, because if there is a change in chart of account structure also, you would be defining the multiple ledger. That leads to the multiple ledger concept. Let us say I am defining a ledger for India, which as per the local requirement, whatever the organization local management requirement it requires. Assume that as per the discussion, we came to a conclusion that it requires 6 segment, and whereas the US it requires the 8 segments. So in that case, you would be defining two chart of account structure. In return, each of these chart of account structure is going to tie up with the its own ledgers, right? One ledger for India and one ledger for US, right? That is where the ledger comes into picture in enterprise structure. Where does the ledger sits in the enterprise structure? It is just below the divisions, and the ledger will be the primary source to record your journals. And what Oracle says is you can go and implement with one ledger being set up, but you can configure more than one ledger. Okay, in return, and the ledger is the combination of various components. When I say various, there are four components: chart of account structure, calendar, currency, and the accounting method. Each of them we are going to see in the next classes, subsequent classes. Okay, don't worry about that. And there are different types of ledger we will discuss when we come to that point. Okay, just you need to understand what is a ledger, where it sits, and what are the components of it, and what how many ledgers an implementation can have. Okay, right. Moving further into the legal entities. What does a legal entity means is the term itself, right? Legal entity, which means in short form, I mean in a layman terms, we can say it as one of the legal company. Okay, so what is the legal company? it it is one of the entity, right? So if you take as an example, if you take Reliance as an example, group company. Okay, it operates with multiple companies, right? Within India also, it does business in various sectors, and each of its sector business has its one or more than company. Maybe it is operating with one company, or maybe it operates with one company, multiple companies, right? Let us say FMCG is the sector. From the FMCG products, these Reliance may have a one company which actually produces the FMCG products, or different companies produce different products, right? The legal company which exists, which gets registered with the local legal authorities, is the legal entity. Okay, so what is the legal entity uses is why? Because once the company is registered with the local ROC, register of companies, it has to comply certain rules, right? It has to follow the first place, it has to follow the corporate rules that the entity that the uh, concerned authority lays down. And it also, as a responsibility, it has to report the taxes as well, right? It has to pay the taxes. Maybe for the business it does, or maybe for the transaction it does with the various, maybe with the vendors or customers, whatever, right? That is where the legal entity comes into picture. Anyone has any questions? Okay, fine. Okay, so next is the next component of enterprise structure is the business unit. Even this is also a mandatory configuration. When it is mandatory is when you are implementing the sub ledgers. Subledgers, which means the payables, receivables, your cash management, the procurement. So these are the option. These are the functional areas where you implement the business unit are mandatorily required to be defined. Okay. So what is the business unit in Oracle? Business unit is an logical entity that exists in Oracle. Okay, it may or may not exist in your real business world business terms. Okay, let us say let us go back to the previous example of Reliance Group. The Reliance Group, it operates. Let us say it has an entity. Reliance Group has entity for steel manufacturing. Reliance Steel, assume that Reliance has a company called Reliance Steel and it operates in multiple locations. Maybe Reliance under the for the product Reliance Steel itself, maybe the Reliance company has multiple entities, multiple legal companies that Reliance Group operates, and each of these Reliance Steel companies has its own products range, right? In that case, assume that the company is operating in one or more legal entities, and these legal entities may operate in multiple locations, right? And it wants to track these business operations location wise, and it wants to control the access for the employees location wise, and maybe it wants to report the transactions for the location wise. So to do so, we define that as a component as the business unit in Oracle applications. Okay, so the next component of your enterprise structure is the inventory organizations. So what does the inventory organizations function will do is it it maintains the your inventory details, right? Inventory organization, the term itself, it talks about inventory. Okay, it talks about the inventory. What does it mean? Inventory means, so every company does its business based on some products, right? The product itself is the item where you are going to define in an inventory organization. Okay, so inventory organization where it tracks the inventory details. So what is my inventory, and what is the inflow, what is the outflow, what is the on hand quantity I have, what is the value of this on hand quantity, everything can be reported on top of your inventory organizations. Okay, and the sub inventories, even sub inventories also are part of your inventory organization. Okay, this is majorly these topics are inventories and sub inventories are part of your SEM consultant. So as a consultant, I mean, we should be aware of what is the enterprise structure. That is the reason I had listed these two topics, but we are going to see the configurations for all these topics in our sessions. Okay, and from this enterprise structure, it is coming to coming down to the level from the enterprise name to the sub inventories. It can have one I mean, coming down, it can be an multiple, right? So enterprise name, obviously enterprise name will be one, right? Group company name we are going to just update over the applications. And as I said, divisions is the optional piece of your enterprise structure where it is you basically it is used for reporting purpose. It doesn't have any other significance. And the ledgers, one enterprise can have multiple divisions, and one division can have one or more ledgers, and one ledger can be assigned with one or more legal entities. And these business units can also have one or more business units can have assigned to the one ledger, and one business unit can have one or more inventory organization. One inventory can have multiple sub inventories. This is how coming to the lower level, you can have one or more entities defined in the Oracle application. That purely depends upon the business requirement, how they want to report. Okay, so any questions on this topic?
Tirupati, one business unit has multiple inventory organizations.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Any questions, guys? maybe I can just list out the um, just an enterprise structure on high level. So let us see. We are going to implement for Apple Inc. and it 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 operates in various countries. US being the headquarter, India is there. One of the Apple India is their subsidiary, right? And also it operates in let us say it operates in the Europe as well with the multiple entities. Assume that is the case. Okay, what you are going to do is I'll come back to the divisions later. I mean once I complete the legal entities, then I'll come back to the divisions. That would give you the clear picture. Okay, so assume that it operates in US, it operates in India, and it also operates in uh, what are the countries? You can Germany. You can write Germany, and it also operates in, maybe you can write
Australia.
Ireland, Ireland. Okay, let us take this example, four countries. Okay, and this company operates in, being since it is operates in US, it has to comply with the local requirement, right? We as a solution, see, every if you are going to, since Oracle says, if you are going to what Oracle says is, you can implement with one ledger. Okay, one ledger, what does it mean is, ledger is the combination of various components, one of them is the currency. Okay, so if you go and implement the solution for the company Apple Inc., which operates in four countries, if you are go and implement with the one ledger, what happens? Whatever the business transactions you are going to record in any of the entity for this various countries, that are going to record in the currency USD. Okay, even the invoicing that you are going to generate, maybe it devolves with the USD. Okay, in that case, what happens is, every company, every country, every country, it generally it as an every company which operates in the legal jurisdiction of any country, it has to record and report in their local currency. Okay, that is why where you will be seeing multiple ledger implementations. Okay, so in that case, by taking that as an condition, we will be implementing a ledger for USD with the currency as USD, and ledger for INR with the currency as INR, right? And a ledger for Germany. What is the currency of Germany? Apart from euro, what is the
Euros.
currency of them? It is their
Euro.
is it? Okay, let it be whatever. We are not bothered about that one. Okay, euro, and Ireland. I think it has pound as well. Ireland, right? So, um so let us take Ireland. It has a dollar, I guess. Irish dollar or Irish pound. British pound it operates, and Republic of Ireland officially currency is the euro. Okay. Okay, let us say it is generally we will call with the short form PND, primary ledger. Assume that is the pound. Okay. This is because of this currency local requirement. we had classified we are going to define multiple ledgers. Okay. And so what does this legal entity means? As I explained, so Apple Inc. in US, maybe India. Apple India is the entity which operates in India. Subsequently it may operate with the various name, right? So this is the going to be an legal entity in your enterprise structure. Okay. And it may operates with, it may also have multiple legal entities existing in one region. Even that is also possible, very much possible that is. Okay, one company, one group company can have multiple subsidiaries, right? There is possible scenario. You would see in many of the bigger clients, you would be seeing the multiple companies. And business units is, as I said, business units is a logical organization component in your enterprise structure of your Oracle applications, and it is basically to control at a location level. Or let us say Apple wants to control. Apple is operating in multiple locations in US, and it wants to control the access operation location wise, and also it wants to generate reports for the specific location wise. Then you will be creating an business unit for each of this location. Okay, if it has multiple such requirement, then you will be creating multiple business unit. Okay, business unit one, but in general you will be creating with a logical name, right? Or whatever the business unit, maybe in this case, um, Apple India BU business unit, Germany BU, Ireland BU. Okay. And uh, if you have seen for the US, I have taken two business units. And the inventory organizations are the your where you keep track of your inventories, right? So just let me put it. Okay, so business unit one, which exists for the location for the US, obviously, right? Business unit one, where it operates in a location, obviously it should have the relevant or the inventory organizations which operates under its geographical area, right? So business unit one can have one or more inventory orgs. Inventory org 1.1, I have just I had mentioned as 1.1, but in your real implementation you will be using the real names. Okay, inventory org 2.1, because just I want to segregate the inventory org belongs to which business unit. Okay. And subsequently you will be having the sub inventories. One inventory org can have multiple sub inventories. Okay, this is how your enterprise structure exists in the Oracle. Okay, and coming back to the divisions topic, where does that what is the see with this reporting, with this structure, we can record the business transactions. But where does that why does that business divisions topic comes into picture? Let us say this company operates in US, India, and Germany and Ireland, right? And it wants to report division wise as well. So what does that division here? Let us say if it since these countries are part of your Euro, I mean European Union. So maybe it wants to track EU region. Okay, and when it comes to the India, maybe it wants to
Asia.
track into the logical parts of India, right? Maybe east, west, north, south, right? Even that is also passed, right? So maybe it want to tax, depends. I mean, this, how does this divisions comes into picture, how you want to track, at what level, is purely it is a business decision. If the business says that I want to track this operations in India, I want to report, depends upon my the state wise. Obviously you would be reporting, you will be having one structure to represent, to identify the transaction as a state wise, right? Maybe you can use division segment, division as an enterprise structure component, and that component you are going to define as the chart of account segment as well. Maybe it wants to report geographical area, maybe by east, west, north, south. In that case, what you are going to do is you are going to define an a component, layer component division with the name east, west, north, south, and that you are going to define as a segment in your chart of account structure. When you are booking a transaction, when you are booking a transaction, you have to mandatorily select each one of the segment value, right? That is where actually the transactions will get segregated according to the division segment that you are going to define. Okay, that is where the divisions is coming into picture in your implementations. Okay, the thumb rule is, if you are going to define a division, if you are going to use the function called division, then obviously you should define that division as a segment in your chart of account structure. Then that is one of the thumb rule you need to remember. So, guys, any question on this topic? Sub inventory. That is what I mean. Okay. This is how your structure for a given entity for which operates in 4 countries. Uh, what would be the? I mean, just an. I mean, it's just an, for understanding purpose. I had listed an uh, enterprise structure components, how we are going to define in the application. Okay, what is an enterprise structure, what are the components in real, I mean, in for an any assume for any of the company, how you are going to implement that. This is how you are going to define the enterprise structure in the Oracle applications. But each of this component, it requires further setups to be done in the application. Okay, that we will discuss further when we reach to the relevant topic. So any questions, guys?